Okay. Hi everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. Thanks for joining. This webinar is called "The Power of Data Strategy in Driving AI Success." I have two really great guests with me today. We'll be discussing the key role data plays in building AI solutions that really deliver real business value and have a real business impact. So before we jump into it, quick sort of run through of today's agenda. So in a moment, we'll do some quick introductions, and then we'll delve into the main part of today, which will be a discussion. We'll talk for around kind of 40 minutes or so. Then after that, we'll have a bit of a chance for some Q&A. You can ask some questions of our guests. If you do have questions, please use the Q&A box within Zoom itself. Type your question in there, and we'll come to it towards the end. Everyone should have their cameras turned off and their microphones muted. So that's great. If you can keep that, that's really helpful for us. This just allows the conversation to flow without interruption, and for everyone to hear the discussions clearly. So thanks for doing that. And after that, we'll sort of wrap up towards the end for kind of a quick 5 minutes, just about sort of final thoughts. And we'll try to end today around sort of 1 p.m. UK time. You'll see a QR code towards the end of today's presentation that links to a feedback form. Where we'd love to hear your feedback on how you found today's event as well. So that will be super helpful. Okay, let's do some introductions then. So first of all, I'll be your host today. I'm Matt Belcher. I look after what's called emerging technology within Codurance here in the UK. So a lot of my time is spent with tech leaders, so CTOs, heads of engineering, that kind of thing. And most recently, that's been around talking to them around things like data and AI and how they can best leverage these two things to deliver kind of real impactful solutions that are going to move the dial for their business. If people haven't heard about Codurance, we have a software consultancy based around the ideas and principles really of agile and extreme programming or XP, and this idea of craftsmanship. So kind of really a core part of how we work and how we want to do business with our clients is to try to raise the level of software quality kind of right across the industry. And our two founders, Sanjay Mancuso and Mashuk Badar, they founded the software craftsmanship, and that's still very much thriving today right across the world. And my guests for today. So first we have Lizaveta. Do you want to do a quick intro to yourself?
Sure. First of all, thank you, Matt, for the invitation and for organizing the event. I'm working with the data for the past 10 years and in different industries as well, finance, real estate, manufacturing. Right now, I'm working in digital media as data engineer, team lead. So my journey started with writing just a simple Excel functions and macros. Now I'm managing our infrastructure in AWS, Snowflake, GCP, also setting up and maintaining data pipelines, any projects which we have and can touch data. I'm involved immediately because I also have some of the background in product ownership and project management. So helping as well to structure the approach to the projects and plan them up.
Thank you very much. Welcome. And next we have Lucky.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Matt, for this opportunity. Hey, everyone, and thank you so much for making your time today. I'm Lucky Sharma, an AWS partner solution architect for GenAI, and I'm really excited to dive into this crucial topic with you all today. As we explore, I guess, the intersection of data and GenAI, we'll be looking at how customers are solving their business problems, right? And how data solutions, AWS solutions can help along with partners like Codurance to harness the power of GenAI effectively and most importantly, responsibly. In terms of my background, I'm working for last 14 years in IT. Right now, working with AWS for almost 5 years or so, working with most of the key partners like the GenAI focus partners in UK and Ireland. And I'm excited.
Good stuff. Brilliant. I think we all have, haven't we? I think it's been quite a big year for AI in particular. Perfect. So yeah, okay, let's jump into it then, shall we? So I guess luckily I'll start with you. So it has been a really big year for AI, right? I think we've all seen that lots of discussion and maybe a little bit of hype as well around kind of AI and lots of tooling that's sprung up around Gen AI and those kinds of things. So I think it's been a real breakout year
Yeah.
for Gen AI in particular. That's probably a good place to start, I think. So if anyone that's kind of not really sure about Gen AI or perhaps kind of just requires a bit of a refresher on what it is, perhaps from your perspective, tell us kind of like what is Gen AI and I guess kind of also like what have you seen in terms of some of the impact that it's having with organizations that you've been working with or alongside as part of your work with AWS?
Cool, great. Yeah, I think every single meeting and discussion is now GenAI discussion, irrespective of what we are talking with the customers and our partners. And sometimes I personally feel like people are having different understanding, right, of different aspects of generative AI. So let me keep it very simple and starts with like a very simple explanation or like a simple understanding of GenAI. So, as per my understanding, generative AI refers to AI systems that can create new content, uh, be it text, images, audio, or video, based on patterns learned from the existing data. These systems uses large language model. We call it LLMs. And there are also multi-model sort of models, and that's where we are using foundation models as well. And also, along with these large language models, they are also like using various deep learning techniques. We have, I think, talking about different kind of architectures like transformer and others. And eventually to generate like a human-like outputs, which are solving many different business problems for our customers. Uh, I believe the key to successful generative AI implementations lies in data strategy. Where we should be able to seamlessly integrate various data sources and help these model to get like more contextual knowledge in terms of making the right uh, outcome, which eventually going to help the businesses. Impact is like a really important question, and I guess most of the businesses are now talking a lot about how they're going to take these projects to the production. And that's where at AWS, we are trying to understand the various use cases of the Gen AI. And we have categorized these use cases under 4 different categories to assess the impact. The very first category is creating new experiences by creating conversational interfaces to access informations and applications by employee as well as the customers, which are solving and actually helping and covering so many different use cases like customer experiences, uh, helping the businesses with GenAI assisted chatbots and so many other areas. The second important category where we can see a lot of traction and which is one of the really popular category of these GenAI use cases is like boosting the employees' productivity by helping them creating the contents, coding, most importantly, or images. And sometime even we can see like the multimodal sort of use cases. The third important category is extracting the insights from large amount of document and making it easier to share the knowledge across the organizations and take better, more informed decisions, right? To make their business successes. And the last category, which is really important, is like people are really using GenAI in terms of doing the product ideations and product development as well. And in terms of like the various sectors, we have seen remarkable results across all the various sectors. Be it retail, retails are using generative AI, for example, to create personalized shopping experience. Financial institutions are leveraging it for use cases like fraud detections, risk assessments, and many others. Manufacturing firms, they are optimizing their supply chain. So the possibilities are endless, right? And I can say the impact is real.
Yeah, I think we're definitely seeing lots of customers sort of coming to us and they're hearing about Gen AI and almost sort of wanting to understand how can I best make use of Gen AI and what are some of the use cases. So yeah, some of the things that you said there, Lucky, I think we've definitely seen in our conversations with our clients too. Um, I guess from your perspective also, Roberto, do you have any thoughts to add to that? Anything different that you've been seeing in terms of impact?
Yes, for me, the main impact is that existing programs are integrating Gen AI, what makes day-to-day work more efficient. And I would like to encourage everyone to research the market, apply for free trials on different platforms like Microsoft Copilot, GitHub Copilot, Adobe Firefly, Salesforce GPT, Tableau GPT, HubSpot AI, Notion AI. There are a lot of them, and I'm quite sure that you will find something interesting in them. And it's great that we have also several platforms for building Gen AI. We have AWS Bedrock, we have Azure AI Studio, we have Google AI Studio. So as specialists, we can pick up the platform based on our infrastructure, use case, resources, cost, to make sure that it will be the best choice and for the project.
Perfect. So I guess we called this webinar the power of data strategy, right, in driving AI success. But perhaps just talk us through the data, like why is data so important for Gen AI, do you think?
So it is basically a fuel for generative AI. All models require very large volumes of high quality data to train effectively. Also, data is collected from user interactions to refine the model over time. Data allows generative AI to fine tune for specific industries, task, or use cases. For example, in finance, models are trained on financial data sets to generate reports and analysis. Yeah. So what I would like to also highlight is that whenever you are starting to think about creating Gen AI specifically on your use case, you should think about a concept of garbage in, garbage out. So high quality, diverse, and well-labeled data sets are critical for success.
Yeah, I think that's really key, that sort of data quality in is like the output quality of the model really depends on that level of quality and the data you have. Yeah,
Yes.
really agree on that. I think we're as co-Germans that we're seeing more conversations that are sort of getting back around to talking about data quality and making sure that, as you say, that the input into an AI model isn't garbage, it is of high quality to ensure that the AI is able to respond
Yeah.
and give results that are of the highest quality.
Yeah,
So yeah,
and I heard a lot from different businesses as well that they have perfect backend, they have all the information, everything, and second you're starting to dig deeper, to analyze it, to see what exactly there you can find a lot of inaccuracies, a lot of missing values, or even the business cannot explain you how this data should be used. So that can be also the impediments for the Gen AI implementation.
Yeah, no,
True, true.
very much so. What's your thoughts, Lucky? I mean, do you agree with that? Are you seeing sort of patterns around like data being very critical to AI success as well?
Yeah, I think at AWS, we strongly believe data is the core, right? Heart and soul of generative AI applications. And I'm totally aligned with Lisa on that. One of the really critical areas, like the same thing, right? Like garbage in and garbage out. If we really want to have a quality AI models, we really need the quality data to do the right sort of training or fine tuning in terms of making it align with the various industry use cases. Just to add like few more points over here to emphasize on the importance, right, and significance of data for Gen AI is I think one of the really big challenge with these models are biasness, right? So, and that's where data can play like a really crucial role. We can mitigate biasness. So if we are carefully curating, right, the data sets, sorry, which can reduce like a lot of biasness in these outputs, because if the models are having the right set of context and relevance, that can really solve a lot of biasness issues over there. And also, it is really critical, right, to have your diverse data from multiple sources, do the right ETL, and then have the right sort of data quality for these models, which can mitigate many problems. I think one of the other, I would say, area which is really critical and where data plays a really important role for these Gen AI applications are, which not many people are talking about, but I think business are really worried about, is like cost efficiency, right? So if we have a really high quality and relevant data, that can reduce a lot of computational resources that needs for training and fine tuning of these models. So rather than again putting billions of parameters and doing that garbage in and garbage out, it is really critical for the organizations to think about the quality of the data, right, which can reduce a lot of dollar values for these businesses. I would say one of the other impact, right, and one of the other area which plays a really significant role is like a real world relevance. So if when businesses are using these models, sometimes these models are really not up to date, and that's where again data can play like a really critical role. So if we do have, let's say, real time feed, and which is augmenting the responses of these generative AI applications, that can really solve like a like a real and critical problem for the businesses. So yeah, completely aligned with Lisa, right? Data
Mm.
and data quality is so important for a meaningful and relevant generative AI applications for the businesses.
In fact, I think as AI models and services start to become increasingly more like commoditized, I think in my sort of prediction will be that those organizations that are able to curate the highest quality data and are also able to leverage that more effectively, they'll be the ones that will be set apart from everybody else. I think so. I can definitely see a point in time when, we get to a point where the AI models themselves, everyone kind of has very similar AI models, but it's the
Yeah,
data that really
Yeah.
sets you apart, I think. And
that's
And
so
also
true.
data uniqueness. Each industry will hold their own golden database, which no one else has, or like some
Yeah,
information documents, maybe creative approach, which they can use and make a difference to
true.
the rest of the market.
yeah, so I think you're right. I think it's those organizations that are able to really understand that data is it's a really key asset for them and can be
Yeah,
a differentiator and invest in that now. I think they'll be the ones that will ultimately reap the biggest benefits from AI in kind of my perspective. But I guess to kind of talk a little bit more about that then, Lucky, do you what in your opinion is some of the key factors around like defining a data strategy that kind of really aligns with AI nicely?
yeah. I think this is really important and critical now, right? Because AI is playing a very crucial role for every part of the business. It is affecting all the different sort of business use cases. And that's where it is really important to define the right data strategy, which should have a proper alignment with AI. And I believe there are many factors, right? I'm just going to talk about like few key factors, and then I believe Lisa can add her understanding as well. From the AWS perspective, and even from my personal experience, I believe the very first key factor is having the right data quality and the correct and required integrity, right, of your data. So, and that's where we do have services like AWS Glue, Data Brew for the robust and data preparations and to do the right data cleansing over there. Uh, I believe it is really critical to understand the various data sources that you need in terms of fuel and power your generative AI applications. So yeah, so I believe we need that integrations in place and doing the right data quality check over there. The second, I would say the key factor for me is data governance and most importantly, compliance, right? You really have to adhere with so many compliances, and that's where your data should have the right controls in place so that you will be able to control your data. And also you should be able to have a granular governance in place. And this is really important. That's why I'm pitching in. And that's where AWS services like AWS Data Lake Solutions, right? These services really plays like a really critical role over there. And those who have like following us on reInvent, this year reInvent, we have launched something called next generation of SageMaker. And within that, we have a SageMaker Unified Studio. So in a single pane of glass, you can access all your data. You can access Bedrock, Q, and SageMaker, and all the other tools that you required, right, in terms of building your GenAI application in a very governed and compliant way. So I really recommend customers to first think about the governance and put the right governance layer before actually getting into the other part of your data strategies. The last, there are many factors, but I'm just prioritizing. So the last key factor from me is doing the right metadata management and doing the right cataloging. To have the right data lineage, right? Because if you don't know where is your data and how it is traveling, right, in your organization, it's not going to help you at all, right? You should have that like a granular control of your data, and that's where metadata management and cataloging plays a very critical role over there. So if I'll go on, then I can keep talking, right? Because this is my favorite, I would say, topic when it comes to data to talk about the key factors, but I'll just limit myself to these three. And I would say important factors whenever customers are talking about and thinking about aligning their AI and data strategy together.
Yeah, I think that's some really, really great points. So, like, I think that probably could be a talk in itself, right? There's obviously lots
Yeah,
kind of
absolutely.
deep into, but I guess to move on slightly from that, I think it's been a big year for AI and Gen AI particularly, but I think it's also been fairly. There's been quite a few quite high-profile security breaches this year, I think, as
Yeah.
well. Unfortunately, you've probably all seen those in the news and whatnot over this year. So I guess I'm talking about data here and AI. Like, how can organizations, do you think, kind of build trust around their data security when thinking about data engineering or building Gen AI solutions? What do you think? I'll start with you first.
I think that in general, yes, all organizations should make sure that they are encrypting sensitive data and using multi-factor authenticator. Also, you have a plan prepared to respond effectively to any data breaches. A great practice is also to have regularly third-party audits and obtain recognized certifications. You can also create some kind of newsletter on newly implemented securities measurements, which you can share with your stakeholders or with the clients to keep them up to date. It's very important to be aligned with the GDPR, HIPAA, or any other industry-specific regulations. Because, for example, for the GDPR, data specialists should ensure that the data which is collected is legal and people are informed how this data is going to be used. Map all the data sets where you have personal data fields like name, surname, IP address, email, identify how this data is stored, who has access to it, how it is processed, how it should be rotated. And it is quite a good practice to randomly sample data to ensure any kind of unnecessary information isn't present. So what it means is that even for Gen AI, it's very nice to just from different sources somewhere quickly check what exactly you are feeding. Are you over? Maybe you are using something which is not necessary anymore. So you can then utilize some space maybe for the data which is with a higher priority as well. So just maybe to sum up here, it's very important to be transparent with the users, with your stakeholders, with your clients, and even within the company itself, of course, and make sure that you in collaboration with your IT team, you are supporting them, you are also asking them also for some advice as well. So then you're making sure that not only your AI tool, but in general, your infrastructure and your company is safe from any attacks.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. I think your last point there around sort of collaboration between teams is it sounds really obvious, right? But I've certainly seen companies that don't do that, and they try to sort of bolt on security of their data as an
Yeah.
afterthought almost, and surprise, surprise, it becomes really hard to do, or they forget it,
Yeah.
and it leads to these sort of breaches. So, I like that. What are your thoughts, Lucky, on that?
Yeah, I think I found your response really amazing, Lisa. You touch upon the comprehensive approach, right, in terms of having the right data security, because I strongly believe like we need a very comprehensive sort of approach when it comes to security. You just can't talk about your data security, right? You really have to think about the right level of security for your infrastructure, for your network, and the other resources as well. And I believe building trust in the era of like frequent data breaches is really crucial, right? Because it is really important that trust built through consistent, transparent, and responsible data practices. So, and if like the stakeholders within the business, if they don't have the trust, then it's not going to work for the businesses. And that's why, from the AWS perspective, we do encourage our customer to think about a very comprehensive sort of approach in terms of protecting their data and avoiding these kind of data breaches. Uh, I can go with like few important practices over here, which could help our customers, right? And to start with, I believe we really have to think about implementing a very robust security measures. And for that, we have many services. Service like AWS Shield, WAF, and Amazon Duty Guard, which could protect, right, against various kind of threats. So customer can think of like in their infrastructure and using these services and creating the right kind of solution in terms of protecting their infrastructures and the other resources. Uh, the second important, I would say, aspect of the protection and the right level of security is to be transparent about the data practice and using the right audit mechanism right in place. So customers can think of using services like Amazon Cloud Trail in terms of putting the right sort of audit mechanism in place and should be able to do the audit in a very frequent way. The next one is like doing leveraging services like AWS Security Hub or AWS Audit Manager and have more transparency in the whole system. Also, I believe one of the really important and I think critical part of the data security is educating your customer, right, about the security best practices, which is really important. Uh, Along with like protecting your resources and your infrastructure, it is really critical to do the right kind of education and training for your customer in terms of following the right best practices over there. And also, I believe in the era of AI, it is really critical to demonstrate, right, like how businesses are doing these AI ethically, right, and how they are leaning on the framework of responsible AI and giving the right understanding to the various business stakeholders so that they can understand, right, like how responsibly businesses actually leaning on these AI models to do the business. And most importantly, at the last, I would say it is really important to demonstrate like a clear accountability, right, of data protection within the organizations by putting the right sort of like a racy sort of matrix, right? So that people can understand what their responsibility is, and they should behave, I would say, responsibly towards protecting the data from any sort of breaches. So that's my understanding and my take on data breaches because it's being so critical. We really have to work in terms of building that trust layer for our stakeholders.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think there's some really quite important points there. That, again, probably could have a separate conversation just
Exactly.
about
That's so true.
security and kind of how we do that properly. But yeah, I think some really great points from both of you there actually. So I guess we talked a bit about how important data is, right, for AI, and but I guess the big thing that we both all kind of mentioned is like the quality of the data, isn't it? And making sure that that is the best it can be to feed into kind of a Gen AI process. So I guess the better quality of the data we have, the better output we'll get from our models. And I think there's a lot to be said there, I think, in terms of like data engineering, so data cleansing, data enrichment, and those kinds of things, building upon just like the raw data that you might collect from your systems and your customers. So I guess, Elizaveta, I'll start with you first. Like, how do you think organizations can ensure better data quality? So like, I'm thinking things around how they might enrich their raw data, for example, or how they're managing metadata effectively to support, decision making of the data, or even kind of powering AI applications. What are your thoughts?
Sure. First of all, I would like to recommend to simplify your life a little bit and use automated tools like Informatica or Data Robot or Glue for cleaning, deduplication, and data validation. It will save you a lot of time. Plus, you can set up some kind of specific alerts, logs, notifications. So, in case something is breaking down in your pipeline or going against the trend, you can be informed immediately and start the investigation. Yes. Of course, you should regularly assess and validate data for any kind of errors, inconsistency, and gaps. Collaborate with the business, find stakeholders for the different maybe areas who can help you out to make sure that you are not only validating it as a data is clean. Yes, data is all in the same format, but also that it has a business sense as well. Combining internal data sets like CRM, any ERP systems with external sources, like demographics, market trends, will give you a more holistic view And more you can obtain internally and see how it can be combined with some external information, more you can be specific to your industry, to your use case. With this also will help to implement business technical operational metadata and standards to ensure accurate data labeling and lineage tracking. Also, you should store all this information somewhere in the common place. Everyone should know where it is, how to access it, what does it mean, and they would be able to find answer to the questions in terms of the data, or why we exactly using this field or this data set. They can uncover it quite quickly in one repository. And of course, invest in user-friendly tools. Again, don't overcomplicate your work. We have enough on our plate. Try to use software as a service. With any kind of, even now, Gen AI is helping to onboard people to the tools as well. So utilize it as much as you can.
Yeah, I think a big fan of automation. Also, a really big fan of your point around having a central source of truth, kind of a data catalog of the data sets that you have and how they're created. I think that's really good points there as well. Lucky, what are your thoughts?
I don't know why, but I'm always aligned with Lisa.
Your coffee. It's wonderful.
I really love your response, right? And I think you covered almost everything over there in terms of how customers can have like a better data quality over there. One of your point I literally loved about the simplicity. You really need like a simple solution, right? Uh, because when you go into like multiple, let's say, layer of complexity, sometime you lost the track. So it's really important from the architecture perspective as well to keep the things very simple and lean on the right set of tools. And that's where I can say I can see like most of the customers who are using Glue, they are able to build the right sort of metadata management sort of solutions and having the right cataloging in place, and also leaning on zero ETL sort of strategy in terms of picking the right data, doing the right augmentation, and then maintaining the right data quality over there. One of the critical thing, however, is from the culture perspective as well, right? And that's where I I strongly believe that businesses have to foster this culture of data-driven, right, approach, and help their stakeholders, right, to think from the data-driven sort of culture for anything and for everything, right, within the organizations, which can eventually going to help them to build and to get the right data on board for their data lake solutions and other kind of solutions. So that's, I believe, one of the things which customers should think about. And from the ML and AI perspective, you talked about data labeling and other sort of stuff, which I believe is really, really critical, right? Because when you think of building a generative AI applications, generally customers are leaning on these large language models, which comes with their own knowledge, like billions of parameters storing knowledge in the various neurons, right? But to make those models more effectively to solve the actual business problem, we really need like a contextual data over there, right? And for that, we have to go and do like a training of these large language model, or maybe we can go with something like RAG. And even to do that RAG effectively, we really need that quality of data. And eventually, to get that quality of data, it is really important to do the right level of labeling of your data, understanding from where you have to pull the data and create the right data pipelines over their data. And that's where customers can lean on services like Amazon Wrangler, which is a really awesome service in terms of going and looking into your data, doing the data labeling automatically. and then eventually fueling your GenAI applications with that. So yeah, I don't want to like repeat what Lisa already had said, but yeah, these are few of the points which customers can consider while thinking about their data quality management.
Perfect.
Good points, absolutely.
I can see a few questions kind of flying in the Q&A box, so I'll try and leave some time for us to get to those as well. But I guess a couple more questions and then we'll sort of jump into some Q&A. So I guess lucky that in your experience, you talked about data lakes and whatnot, and I think I've certainly seen some customers that are struggling now. They had sort of data warehouses and they're finding that that's not really kind of fit for purpose anymore in kind of a world of AI where there's lots of different data sources and it's no longer just sort of structured data. It's often kind of quite unstructured in many cases. So what are some of the I guess the key data strategy patterns that perhaps you've seen or you would kind of recommend for people that are looking to start to build and create these Gen AI solutions?
Yeah, I guess data strategy patterns are gonna, uh, I would say, differ from organization to organizations depending on their priority use cases. But yeah, I can talk about like a few of the popular data, I would say, patterns over here. And I believe one of the really popular pattern is like implementing like a data lake architectures. And for that, customers can use services like Amazon S3, AWS Lake Formations in terms of creating a centralized data management, right? So if customers are really looking into the centralized data management sort of pattern, then they can, of course, look into these sort of services and have a centralized data management. Also, there could be a way of like doing a decentralization as well, and that's where customers can consider a data mesh approach with Amazon EKS or Amazon App Mesh to have that decentralization and domain-oriented data ownership sort of pattern. Also, customer can opt hybrid sort of cloud strategies if that's their use case. They can think of services like Amazon Outpost or Storage Gateway for having a better level of flexibility over there. Uh, One of the other important, I would say, pattern is to enable the real-time data streaming, right? Their customer could have many use cases where they really want to tap into this real-time data streaming, and that's where customer can leverage services like Amazon Kinesis or Amazon MSK to keep AI model updated with the current set of informations. Also, a customer can think of the another pattern by using data fabric and glue and flow to for the seamless data integration. So yeah, I think there are many different sort of patterns, right, when it comes to data patterns, but that completely gonna depend on like what sort of use cases customers are dealing with and what are the priorities for them. And they can go with these sort of data patterns. And most importantly, customer really have to understand and work on the combinations of these patterns, right? They might gonna have like a different sort of combinations of these patterns in terms of meeting their data requirements eventually. So yeah, I think these are few, I would say, popular patterns, but I'm keen to understand what Lisa is going to share.
And I will agree with you. It is my turn to copy your answer, especially also with the real-time pipelines. Sometimes business doesn't understand that different type
Yeah,
of the data, real time, near real time, batching is manually load is a completely different games
yeah,
as well. And they're underestimating it. If only I can to add something is make sure that you are paying attention to life cycle management of your data. So you are rotating it. It will help you to be in line with GDPR, of course. Plus, also with some space, you can archive some of the data systematically if you don't use it anymore, and it can help to save you some space.
yep.
Yeah, great answers.
That's it. The rest, lucky you are on point.
Nice.
They're both very in sync. I like it. It's good.
Looks like so far.
So I think I was going to sort of try and talk a little bit about governance, but I think we would need a lot more time to do that justice. So maybe we can come back to that in a future webinar in the new year. I want to make sure we get time for some Q&A. So I guess before we sort of jump to the Q&A, perhaps kind of one final question to you both really. I'll start with you first, Elizaveta. Like how do you think organizations can sort of get started with using Gen AI solutions? So perhaps they've been hearing about Gen AI over the past couple of months or so. They're interested in it, but actually, how do they get started in building a Gen AI solution, but making sure that it delivers real business value and not just a POC that doesn't really go anywhere?
Of course, of course. Starting with such webinars is not a bad idea, of course. But yeah, if we are going a little bit more, maybe step by step, it is first of all is to identify the problem, which you are trying to solve. After it, you are going and doing your proper market research, identifying what is Gen AI, what are the existing solutions, what potentially can be done. Go wild. Anything what you can find. After it, from my experience, I would recommend to create a very small, like, proof of concept skeleton. It's also sometimes can be referred to, just using your existing tools, your existing infrastructure, and your skill set, just to make sure that business knows what they want to do, that you can follow their logic before you will start to build any kind of model. Yeah. So once you are ready and you know exactly, you are aligned within the business, what exactly you are building, then you can start to think about the scalable cloud-based platform for training, deploying AI, again, deciding what will be the best for you, picking up the partner, or hire someone up. Of course, Codurance is here, is stepping in, and it's always a pleasure to collaborate with you guys. Then you can pilot project with matrices, just to make sure that you understand how you can measure the success, and just a feedback to understand how to refine the model and expand it and make it better.
Perfect. Lucky, what are your sort of final thoughts?
Yeah, I think this is being really important, right, for the businesses to understand how they have to kick off their Gen AI adoption journey. Uh, I would say the very first step should be to do the right use case identification, which need like a proper approach in terms of understanding the whole business first rather than jumping on Gen AI. So it's good to do like some sort of Gen AI use case identification workshop, understand your business, map these use cases across the various phases of your business, understand which part, like which specific phase is actually making money, right, and which is really critical for the CXOs and the stakeholders. And that's where the second step comes in, right? Like after identifying your use cases, it is really, really critical to prioritize the right use case over there. And in terms of doing that prioritization of use case, different organizations can go with like different sort of approach over there. Sometimes people can understand their P&L and prioritize on the basis of their revenue. Sometimes they might have some like aspirations and they do have certain sort of priorities, and they can align their Gen AI use cases based on their internal or maybe the other sort of priorities over there. So for me, the most important step to begin your Gen AI journey is Gen AI use case identification, and most importantly, prioritizing the right use cases so that business should be able to understand and prove the value of generative AI for their business. So that's step number one. And once they have identified the use case, I believe the next important step is to understand what sort of skill sets they have, right? What sort of resources they already have so that they'll be able to do the required changes accordingly. One of the other interesting area is like to do the right model selection. Sometimes people assume they can use one model for anything and everything, which is not the fact, right? Uh, Customer really have to choose the right model based on their use cases, right? It might be possible that they are working on a very specific sort of financial use case, and for that they might can get like a better outcome and results with a very task specific model rather than a large language model over there. So they really have to choose and pick the right model, do the right model evaluation, understand the various outcomes, how you're comparing these models, and choose the right model effectively, which gonna make their solutions more relevant and should be able to save like a good amount of money for their businesses. The third important step over here is to do the right customization, right? So there are different customizations approaches are there, right? Like something using the right prompt engineering, doing the RAG, or doing the fine tuning, or maybe you have to retrain your model, uh, let's say from scratch itself sometime. But business have to understand like which particular approach or like customization is really suitable for their specific use cases. Because if they are leaning with the prompt engineering, effectively they are not doing any sort of model retraining or fine tuning, and that's where they're gonna get like things very easily without so much of investment over there. But they really have to understand like whether prompt engineering is meeting their business requirements over there, or is it like a big deficit or like a gap is there. And if they feel like prompt engineering alone is not the right mechanism, they can think of RAG, right? And even while doing the RAG, they can choose the right RAG approach or RAG architecture in terms of doing the right embedding, leaning on vector DPs, and then making like more contextual responses for their business. So that's the step number three for me, choosing the right customization approach and making the whole GenAI solution viable and cost effective and effective from the outcome perspective as well. So I would say these are like few steps where business really have to think a lot. And along with these three steps, they also have to parallelly work on their data strategy. They really have to understand where their data is really aligned with GenAI, uh, and then align it properly as per their aspirations. And I would strongly recommend, right, customers over here to get the right partner on board in terms of doing these sort of activities, because it's good to have the right set of partners with them who could help them during this journey. And yeah, and I know like for that matter, Codurance is having a great services and offerings here for the customers. So like with Codurance, you can go and access their generative AI accelerator service, which is a really awesome service, which takes care of different aspects of your GenAI adoptions, be it, let's say, technology, data strategy, governance, delivery, and your capacity. So you can like onboard with partner like Codurance and work across these different areas and get the right strategy in place to begin with your GenAI journey. So that's my long response. And this was intentional to talk a lot because I literally believe that you really have to start in a correct way, right? To get the right TCO and ROI for your business, and you'll be able to prove the value of these generative AI applications for your businesses.
Of course, once you will fail, then it will be much more difficult
Exactly,
to
exactly.
confirm that it is profitable and can be done.
That's so true. That's so true. And that's why I quite often says to my customer that they really should start small, prove the value, and then scale your GenAI initiatives.
Yeah, totally. Thank you very much, both for your comprehensive answers all the way through today's session. Really, really good inputs. I think we probably have time for one question. That there's quite a few in the Q&A box itself. So perhaps what we can do is answer them all offline and like publish the answers on the internet afterwards, so people can see the full range of answers. But I'll try and get to the one that has the most votes, which is any tips on how to go about ensuring data quality or get buy-in from people to ensure that data is kept up to date in the right format and so forth? Is it more of a people problem than perhaps kind of process and technology? Um, what do you think? Who wants to answer that first?
I would say, Lisa,
Okay,
you should
sure,
crack
sure.
on.
We have covered some of these areas,
Yeah,
yes, because the question is good, yes, and has several parts
yeah,
into it, which you should take into consideration, of course. Don't expect that second you will connect to the external data sources or will start to work with your data, that everything will be smooth, nice. Don't trust anyone. Validate the data by yourself with the tools, with any possible methods which you can come up with, and also with the business to make sure that before you will start to load or scale your project, you will have a very clean, nice base to which you can step by step add rather than to start with the garbage. Sorry for this, but that's true. And also, of course, make sure that you have recordings about where is the data from, when is the next update planned one, what is the type of the connection, how it should be maintained as well, because with the time you can start to lose this visibility and it can start to be too much. So make sure that you are structuring it in a way that you, your team, business will know exactly what is the data availability, what is happening, and they are comfortable and sure that you are looking after it.
Very good. Fantastic. I think we're probably coming up to being on time, so I'll probably call it there.
I
But
took too much. Sorry,
I
Lucky.
think it's all very, very good inputs from both of
yeah,
creative and lucky. So it's a very big topic, of course, and there's
yeah.
lots to cover. So we may well have a future webinar perhaps in the new year and come back to some of the things that we've not been able to get into in too much detail today. But yeah, thank you both again for your time and your great inputs today. Um, there are quite a few questions still in the Q&A, so I think what I'll do is I'll take a copy of those questions and we'll look to answer them, the three of us, and sort of respond back with answers over email in the coming week. So we do answer
Awesome.
your questions for you. The QR code on the screen here, if you do want to sort of give us some feedback on how you found the event today, that would be super helpful. Thank you very much. And yeah, sort of keep an eye out for sort of more content around data and AI from Codurance in the new year, webinars and blog posts and publications and events and all those sorts of things. There's lots more to come from us in this space. So yeah, thanks for coming, everyone, and thanks again to Elizabeth and Lucky for your time.
Awesome. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much.